All good.
Cool.
Are we recording? Yeah. Cool.
Yep.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Stacey West. We're here for another preview. This time it's a bit late. We've got Rochdale on Saturday, and very much fortunately to be joined by Dean, a Rochdale supporter. Dean, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, not bad at all, mate. You?
Yeah, well, looking forward to tomorrow's game, I think, mate. Obviously, it's a big game for both clubs. You know, you're struggling down the wrong end of the table, and we're fighting for promotion to the Championship. I just want to sort of touch on the summer for Rochdale. It was quite a big one, losing Henderson and Callum Camps, both two big players that were at Rochdale last season. How did that sort of feel as a supporter to lose two of your probably better players last year?
Yeah, devastating, obviously. Two of our longest-serving players as well as two of our better players. Henderson was, I think, something like 7 goals off becoming the club's all-time leading goal scorer. Camps came through the youth academy, 200-plus appearances in the league. So, obviously, they were sort of a big part of the club, part of the furniture in a way. Henderson was so reliable for years and years, scored so many goals for us. So, when he left, I think there was a feeling among the fan base that was like, pretty much we're doomed in a way. I think that was the sort of feeling. And with Camps, there was always a feeling that he was sort of destined to move on at the end of that season. I think even if it weren't for sort of the whole situation with the season coming to an early end, I think Camps probably felt that he was after a fresh start. But the one that hurt was obviously Henderson, and there was a bit of a fallout with the club afterwards as well, which wasn't great to see because obviously for what he did on the pitch, he was a bit of a legend, but I think he sort of tainted his relationship with the fans a little bit for the way he reacted to leaving. But on paper it looks really bad, doesn't it? But in the end, we've actually managed to replace them fairly well, I think, and we're doing sort of okay in their absence.
Yeah. Obviously, it sort of shows how well, especially Camps, is a player that's sort of, you know, probably one of the better attacking midfielders in League One. It just shows how good of a player he is since he's made that move to Fleetwood as well.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think under Keith Hill, he sort of his progression was stifled a little bit because he played him a little bit deeper than we would have liked to have seen him, and that sort of exciting player that burst through maybe went missing at times a little bit, but that's to be expected in a team that was always sort of struggling towards the bottom of the table. And then last season, Brian Barry Murphy played him in a more attacking role, and we started to see the player that we thought was there all along, really. And if anything, I sort of expected him to go to a higher club than Fleetwood, and that's no disrespect to Fleetwood. I just maybe thought there might be a lower end Championship club looking at him or something. But I know Peterborough came in for him, but he was looking to stay in the Northwest, and he's ended up at Fleetwood. And fair play, he just seems to be banging him in, doesn't he? So he probably needed that fresh start, I guess.
And let's just talk a bit about Rochdale's start to the season. 18th place, I think, in League One at this present moment. How would you assess, the first 15 games or so?
I think, like I say, losing those two in the summer, the club are always going to be sort of struggling financially anyway. I think, given the circumstances, with last season ending the way it did, and obviously the fact that it's going to have had a financial impact on all the clubs, I think everyone pretty much expected us to be fighting against relegation. We were odds on to go down. We were the same odds to go down from League One as Wycombe were from the Championship, which sort of tells you like just how much we're sort of swimming against the tide. So I think to have got the wins that we've got is really encouraging. I think at times we maybe even have deserved a little bit more in some games. I think against Northampton we probably deserved the 3 points rather than the 1. I think we maybe even deserved to beat Sunderland early in the season when we only got a draw with them. So I think in terms of the performances, it's quite encouraging. We need to be able to maybe find a sort of plan B for trying to break teams down that are a little bit more sort of organised defensively. I think that's probably been the frustration in the last few weeks. But I think overall, most of us are quite happy with the way things are going at the minute because expectations were really low and we've managed to pick up a few decent wins along the way, especially on Tuesday, which was, I think, the sort of performance and result that sort of gives everyone a little bit of excitement and hopefully not false hope
Yeah.
for the next few games.
I say we touched on that result on Tuesday off air. So we spoke about how a team like Lincoln, who were flying high in the division, went down there 3 days before and got turned over 2-0, whereas Rochdale went down there 3-0 up at half time and Boston, which sort of shows how unpredictable League One really is this year.
Yeah, definitely. It's sort of the same every year, but I think this year more than ever, isn't it? It's like you're getting these sort of strange results. I don't think there's been. I'm sure I read the other day that 4-0 is the biggest away result of the season. So for that to come for us, struggling towards the bottom of the league away against a team that hadn't lost at home since January or something. So really strange result. I think what like I mentioned a minute ago, really our issue is that we really struggle to break defensively minded teams down. So we got in behind early on for the first goal, which is the sort of chance that we just haven't been able to create against the likes of Northampton and Wimbledon. Get that goal, and then obviously they've got to come out, and it opens the game up, and we just kept sort of finding space on the counter attack, really, and we're clinical, which is something we haven't really been. I mean, part of that is because the Henderson replacement is Stephen Humphreys, who came from Southend, but he got injured in his first game. He's only now, I think, he came back off the bench in the Wimbledon game, and then he started Northampton, started again on Tuesday and scored again. So I think that's probably why we've struggled going forward, because I think the plan was to basically play around him, and he hasn't been there. Whereas now he has. He's scored 2 and obviously got himself an assist as well on Tuesday. So I think that's encouraging. But we'll see how he goes over the course of the season.
It's been just over a year since the two sides last met in that 1-1 draw at Scotland. I was there. I went up on a Tuesday night. It was a half-fought draw for Lincoln. Obviously, you guys went ahead and we snuck ahead. I think it was Tyler Walker scored. Nicked in front of the near post. How have Rochdale sort of changed since that moment? Because you talk about there how you needed to be able to beat teams that were sitting back. That night, it sort of looked like Rochdale on Lincoln, from a Lincoln point of view, was sitting back and trying to just prevent Lincoln from doing what they could do. I mean, it sort of swings and roundabouts. So how have Rochdale changed since that match day?
To be honest, I think the sort of, I don't like using the word, but I think the philosophy is pretty much the same. Sort of keep tight at the back, keep hold of the ball as much as possible. We maybe are slightly more direct at times. Humphreys, who I mentioned there, is quite a big, not a target man per se, but he's definitely more of a target than Henderson would have been. And we've had Jake Beasley as well, who I don't think will be playing because he got a bad head injury on Tuesday at Plymouth. But he's another player who you can sort of float longer balls up to, who can sort of use his physicality to sort of get in front of defenders and things like that. So that sort of offered us a little bit more of an out ball, which means we do sort of move the ball up the pitch a little bit quicker than we would have done last year, which is testament to BBM, because I think it was his first full season as a manager last season, and I think he was desperate to sort of implement that passing style of play, and it was even in times when it clearly wasn't working, we just sort of stuck with it. Whereas now I think we've got that plan B a little bit more, and we do try to be a little bit more sort of creative as a forward. Is it all right?
Yeah. On the Stacey West, we sort of just roll with it, mate. We just pick it up and roll with it.
Good stuff. We've been, like I say, it's sort of. I'd say we're maybe a little bit more direct than we would have been last season, but I think we'll still try and play our football as much as we can. And defensively, we will still be, when the opposition have got the ball, we do try and get behind the ball, mainly because there's sort of a lack of pace, basically, at the back. O'Connell's our best player for me, our centre-half and captain, but one thing he doesn't have is pace, so we do tend to sit behind the ball a little bit when we are out of possession.
And we sort of touched on a little bit off air as well about obviously the current world pandemic, COVID-19. How big of an effect is it having on Rochdale? Because obviously Rochdale, when you go to Rochdale, the fans make it difficult for the players, very much like the supporters at Lincoln do. How have Rochdale sort of felt the pinch of not having them gate receipts?
Yeah, definitely. I think pretty much every club like Lincoln and Rochdale are going to feel that sort of. It's the lifeblood of the club, isn't it? The money coming in through the gate every week. I think we were quite lucky in that last season we sold Luke Matheson to Wolves for around $1 million, I think it was in the end. We also had cup ties with Newcastle and Man United. So obviously there's a lot of money coming in there. We've got a draw with Newcastle at home, took them back to St James's Park. The home game was on TV as well, so a bit of TV money. So I think the chief exec, this week has come out and basically said that if it wasn't for that, we'd have been really struggling. But as it were, we sort of got a little bit lucky last season, and we managed to bring in enough money to sort of see us through a little bit. But obviously, it's still going to have affected us. And I think this 375,000 that we're sort of guaranteed clubs at our level, I don't think that's quite enough for some other clubs. But we'll have to wait and see, I suppose. But fingers crossed it is. I think thankfully it probably hasn't affected us as much just because of the way that last season panned out, really.
Yeah. I'm sort of just interested to sort of gauge your thoughts on Lincoln. Obviously, Rochdale are a club that have been at this level quite substantially longer than we have. Obviously, a club that have come straight out of League Two and gone hell for leather straight towards the not straight, but towards the promotion places just in the second season. And also just talk a little bit how about Rochdale might set up tomorrow night. Are they going to be direct just as similarly as Wigan were on Tuesday?
Yeah, I think in terms of Lincoln, it's been really sort of exciting to watch, hasn't it, in the last few years? I think I'm one of those fans that maybe prefers to see clubs that are considered to be like established league clubs coming back into the league over your likes of Fleetwood and others.
Little dig.
But I was happy to see Lincoln come back, and obviously like that the cup run and stuff like that. It was really sort of exciting, even as a neutral, to watch that. And I think, like I say, I'd rather have clubs like Lincoln at our level, clubs that we've played. I was doing the preview before, and we played each other over 100 times, which sort of shows that we've always sort of been a similar level. And I like that sort of history and things like that. So, this season, obviously, amazing, isn't it? I mean, I was looking for the preview before, sort of doing my research a little bit, and you've made some incredible signings.
Which one are you most impressed with?
I think Bridcott on paper looks like a fantastic signing. I don't know how he's been actually playing for you.
I mean, I think Bridcott's one of those sort of players that with his experience, you'd be an idiot not to play him in that holding midfielder. He's definitely a threat, but I think like George Grant is probably a player that you're going to probably need to look out for with his goals. I mean, I don't know if you saw the highlights from Tuesday night, but the free kick that he scored against Wigan was sensational.
I've not seen the highlights, but I did notice that he scored a few goals, and was he with you last season and did quite well as well?
Yeah, we signed him on a permanent from Nottingham Forest, which I think has sort of helped because he's had a lot of loan moves at Notts County, Mansfield, Luton. I think it sort of helped that he's got a permanent place now, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. I think another one that stood out for me was just from watching him in the playoffs last year for Northampton. Callum Morton looked like a really good signing on paper as well. I don't know how he's been doing for you, but I remember in the sort of second leg of the Northampton-Cheltenham game, he was absolutely unbelievable, and then probably the best player in the playoff final as well. So I think Northampton fans would have been a bit gutted to see him sort of not come back, but how's he been doing for you?
Do you know what? He's been injured. He's not played. He's not played a minute. He's one of those. He's one of them players that won't play on tomorrow afternoon rather, because I think he picked up an injury in the game at Bradford in the Carabao Cup before we played Liverpool, and he picked up a long-term injury. He's actually not been seen since, which is a bit of a disappointment. But just moving on to tomorrow afternoon, then how are Rochdale going to set up, and are they sort of? Do you think they'll be looking for a point tomorrow?
I think I'd be quite happy with a point, if I'm being honest. It seems like one of those games that on paper looks really difficult. We've been better away from home than we have been at home as well, which I think sort of feeds back into what I said before, in that teams who sort of come out at us, we actually end up finding a little bit more space in behind. So I don't know. It's sort of, I guess it seems to go that games that go one way or the other with us, where we either seem to end up with loads of possession and very few chances, or we sort of cede possession as much as possible and can get in behind a little bit. I think without Beasley, who's started every game, I think, since he signed, mainly because Humphries has been injured. So it'll be the first time that Humphries has played without Beasley. So we'll probably set up slightly more defensively just because we have quite a small squad. And it seems to be that the formation seems to be based on the best 11 players we have available rather than sort of fitting into a system. I think it will probably most likely bring Jimmy Ryan or Stephen Dooley in for Beasley, which will make us automatically more defensive because they're both midfield players. We don't really have the best striking options like in backup. Matty Doan is not the player he used to be. Fabio Tavares and Quadro Bar look like really talented, exciting youngsters, but they're not really ready to be starting games yet. So I think we'll probably try, and I think it'll be probably one of those games where we do try and sort of keep hold of the ball in the middle of the park and maybe look to frustrate you a little bit by keeping hold of the ball rather than sort of trying to go on the front foot or anything. But I'd definitely take a point looking at where you are in the table, and also the fact that I think all of us are still in that sort of mindset that it's going to be a season where we're going to be struggling again towards the bottom of the table. So sort of any points are welcome ones, really.
Yeah. And if I could push you for a score prediction, Dean, what do you think you'd go for? What have you gone for on your own podcast?
Well,
you can be brave.
Yeah, there's been a lot of draws, hasn't there, between us in the last sort of few meetings. I know it's been a while since we played in the league, aside from that one game last year. But yeah, I think I'll go for 1-1 again.
Oh.
What are you going for?
Okay, I think the way we sort of came back against Wigan on Tuesday night, I think you'll be a similar sort of. I think you've got a bit more quality than what Wigan perhaps do. But I think, even if you score a goal, we sort of showed that we could come from behind and beat teams that not of your level to sort of sound derogatory, but when we're second in the league and we're looking to beat teams, you have to beat teams like Rochdale at home.
Yeah, definitely.
But thank you very much, Dean, for coming on. It's been a massive, it's last minute, but very, very much appreciate it for coming on.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
And I'm sure we'll link your socials in the description of the video. But thank you everybody else for watching, and we'll see you next time. Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Safe. Could you do you know WeTransfer?
Yeah, I've not used it for a while, but I'm sure I'll be able to figure it out.
Yeah, I'll write you my email in the. Yeah, it's been a bit.